Her wedding was about to take place, but a millionaire interrupted the ceremony in a surprising way. What led to this extreme action is something you need to discover. The Napa Valley estate glowed under the afternoon sun, its century-old walls silent witnesses to what was about to happen. The activity was intense in the hallways adorned with Persian carpets and tropical flower arrangements, as the final preparations for the most talked-about wedding of the year were being completed. Emily Thompson watched everything through the window of her suite, her reflection in the Venetian mirror revealing a woman of unique beauty, blending delicate Middle Eastern features with contemporary elegance. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece that told its own story. French lace intertwined with traditional Arabic embroidery, every detail meticulously chosen to honor her roots while celebrating her future. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her veil, a gift from her grandmother that had crossed generations and oceans to reach her. "It's time, Habibi," whispered her mother, Layla, entering the room with teary eyes. The older woman carried with her the comforting scent of cardamom and jasmine, fragrances that had always perfumed the family's small antique shop in downtown Chicago, where Emily had grown up surrounded by treasures and stories. The path that had brought her here seemed almost unreal, like the tales from Arabian Nights that her grandmother used to tell. Just a year ago, she was simply the devoted daughter helping out at the family shop, dividing her time between the store and her studies in art history. It was during an antique fair at the exhibition center that her destiny completely changed. William Carter had entered the fair as someone searching for something specific, his elegant demeanor and striking presence instantly catching everyone's attention. At 45, he carried the confidence of someone who had built his own empire, a luxury hotel chain that spanned the United States and was already planning its international expansion. Their first meeting had been casual. He was intrigued by an antique pocket watch displayed in the Thompsons section of the shop. Emily, with her deep knowledge of every piece, began to recount the history of the object, her eyes shining with the same passion she held for every antique in the store. It was that spark that captivated William, more than any watch ever could. The romance that followed was intense and overwhelming. William courted her with a refinement that went beyond expensive gifts and dinners at starred restaurants. He showed a genuine interest in her culture, her family, her aspirations. For Emily, every moment by his side seemed to confirm that modern fairy tales were possible. However, as the relationship progressed, small details began to catch her attention. Phone calls abruptly cut off when she entered the room, business, meetings that stretched into the early hours of the morning, and a social circle that seemed more interested in strategic connections than genuine friendships. "Are you sure about this, Habibti?" Her father, Omar, had asked the night before the wedding, his thick eyebrows furrowed in concern. Emily had assured him she was, though a small voice inside her echoed the same question. Now, standing before the mirror in her suite at the Napa Valley estate, that voice seemed a little louder. Her eyes landed on a small carved wooden box on the dresser, a mysterious gift that had arrived that morning with no card or sender. Inside it, an ancient Arabian locket and a note with a single phrase in Arabic that made her heart race. The arrival of her best friend, Sophia, interrupted her thoughts. "Bella, you won't believe who just arrived," she said, her face a mix of surprise and concern. "Nathan Carter is here." The name of William's older brother, who had been estranged from the family for years due to business disagreements, sent a shiver down Emily's spine. His unexpected presence, combined with the mysterious note, felt like an omen she couldn't decipher. Downstairs, the guests were already beginning to take their seats in the estate's chapel. The sound of the string quartet floated through the halls, mingling with the chatter of conversations in English and Arabic. Among the attendees, prominent figures from American society mingled with Emily's traditional family, creating a unique cultural mosaic. William, in his impeccable tuxedo, was chatting with a group of businessmen in a corner of the main hall. His confident smile occasionally faltered when his gaze crossed with Nathan's, who deliberately kept his distance, observing everything, with an enigmatic air. One of the waiters discreetly approached William, handing him a manila envelope that quickly disappeared into the inner pocket of his jacket. The groom checked his watch, the same one he had bought at the Thompsons' store, and made an almost imperceptible gesture to one of the men in the group. In the room, Emily was finally ready. The dress, the jewelry, the makeup, everything was perfect, but her hands still trembled as she touched the mysterious locket. Something inside her whispered that this wouldn't just be the day of her wedding, but the beginning of a story far greater than she could imagine. "It's time," announced Sophia, adjusting the train of the dress. The sound of the chapel bells began to ring, signaling the start of the ceremony. Emily took a deep breath, tucked the locket close to her heart, and walked toward the door. Each step brought her closer to her destiny. As the afternoon sun began to paint the walls of the estate with golden hues, as if the sky itself wanted to be part of this unforgettable celebration. Outside, a gentle breeze swayed the garden flowers, carrying secrets that would soon come to light. The Napa Valley estate, with its century-old walls and history-filled corridors, was preparing to be the stage for events that would forever change the lives of everyone present. The chapel at the Napa Valley estate was brimming with anticipation as the doors opened for Emily's entrance. The afternoon sun streamed through the historic stained glass windows, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that danced across her white dress. Omar, her father, guided her down the central aisle with steady steps, though his eyes revealed a mix of pride and apprehension. In the front rows, Layla discreetly dabbed her tears with an embroidered handkerchief, while other members of the Thompson family watched the ceremony with expressions ranging from joy to veiled concern. On the other side, the Carter family maintained an aristocratic composure, except for Nathan, who stood slightly apart, his eyes fixed not on Emily, but on his brother William. As Emily approached the altar, small details began to catch her attention. The slight tremor in William's hands as he received her, a meaningful exchange of glances between two men in the third row, the way Nathan subtly checked his phone. The mysterious locket she carried close to her heart seemed to pulse, as if trying to tell her something. The ceremony unfolded as planned, blending Catholic traditions with elements of Arab culture. The officiant, a priest who had known the Thompson family for years, conducted the ritual with dignity and reverence. However, when the moment for the vows arrived, something unusual happened. William, always so eloquent and confident, hesitated for a moment before beginning to speak. His eyes met Emily's, and for a brief instant, she saw something she had never noticed before. A shadow of doubt, perhaps even guilt. But just as quickly as it appeared, the expression faded, replaced by the charismatic smile she knew so well. During the exchange of rings, a movement at the entrance of the chapel caught Emily's attention. An unknown figure, partially hidden in the shadows, was watching the ceremony. Before she could make out their features, the person vanished, leaving only a sense of unease. The reception that followed was a spectacle of luxury and refinement. The estate's gardens had been transformed into a scene straight out of Arabian Nights, with silk tents, Moroccan lanterns, and a perfectly executed blend of American and Middle Eastern cuisine. An orchestra played, alternating between international, classics, and traditional Middle Eastern music. It was during the newlyweds' first dance that Sophia noticed something strange. Approaching Emily during a partner switch, she whispered, "There's a man photographing you. He's not one of the hired photographers." Emily tried to locate the person mentioned, but the dance floor was now crowded with couples. During a quieter moment of the party, while William was chatting with some businessmen, Emily decided to get some fresh air. Walking through the illuminated gardens, she found herself near one of the estate's ancient balconies. It was then that she heard raised voices coming from one of the adjacent rooms. "You shouldn't have come, Nathan." William's voice, usually composed, carried a tone of urgency she had never heard before. "And let you go through with this? You know very well she doesn't deserve to be dragged into your schemes." Nathan's response sounded like an accusation. "You don't know anything. Things are more complicated than they seem." "Complicated? Is that what you call it? And what about that investor from Dubai? He's here today, isn't he?" The sound of approaching footsteps abruptly ended the conversation. Emily quickly stepped away, her heart racing. The words she had overheard echoed in her mind, mingling with the doubts she already carried. Returning to the party, Emily noticed the atmosphere had subtly shifted. Groups of guests spoke in hushed tones, Furtive glances were exchanged, and there was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. In one corner of the room, a man with Middle Eastern features was speaking intently with Daniel Harris, the journalist invited to cover the event. Sophia approached Emily again, this time with a more serious expression. "Bella, there's something you need to see." She held her phone, the screen displaying a news article that had just been published on a financial website. Before Emily could read the content, William appeared by her side, his hand firmly on her waist. "It's time to cut the cake, my love," he said, guiding her toward the center of the room. His smile remained flawless, but Emily could feel the tension in his touch. The cake-cutting moment was captured by dozens of cameras, flashes capturing what seemed like the perfect image of happiness. The mysterious locket, still close to Emily's heart, felt heavier now. As the night progressed, guests gradually began to say their goodbyes. Nathan was one of the first to leave, but not before casting one last meaningful glance at Emily. As he bid farewell, he pressed something into her hand, a small folded note that she discreetly tucked into the tiny purse she carried. The time to retreat to the bridal suite finally arrived. As they climbed the stairs of the estate, Emily noticed that William seemed distracted, constantly checking his phone. At the door to the room, he asked for a moment, saying he needed to handle one last business matter. Alone in the suite, Emily finally had the chance to examine the note Nathan had given her. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it, revealing only a phone number and a short message. "When you need the truth, call." The sound of footsteps in the hallway announced William's return. Quickly, Emily hid the note along with the mysterious locket in a drawer of the old rosewood dresser. Glancing at herself in the mirror one last time, she saw her reflection, a seemingly happy bride, but her eyes revealed a woman on the brink of discoveries that could change everything. Night fell over the Napa Valley estate, its century-old walls now guarding new secrets. In the room next door, Daniel Harris was organizing his notes from the day, unaware that he was about to become involved in the most intriguing story of his journalism career. And somewhere on the property, a shadowy figure made an important call, whispered words carrying the weight of imminent revelations. The early hours at the Napa Valley estate brought with them an unsettling quiet. The last. Guests had departed, leaving only the distant echo of celebration in the historic halls. In the bridal suite, Emily remained awake, gazing through the window at the moonlit gardens while William took yet another phone call in the adjacent office. Her hands found the mysterious locket and Nathan's note once more, hidden in the dresser drawer. The message in Arabic on the locket, which had once seemed merely intriguing, now took on new meanings in her mind. "Not all that glitters is gold," read the ancient inscription, words her grandmother used to repeat in her tales of wisdom. A sudden noise in the hallway caught her attention. Hurried footsteps, muffled voices, the distinct sound of papers being handled. Silently approaching the door, Emily managed to catch fragments of a tense conversation between William and someone she didn't recognize. "The deal must be closed before dawn," said the unfamiliar voice, with an accent suggesting Middle Eastern origins. "The investors in Dubai can't wait any longer." "The transfers have already been initiated," replied William, his voice betraying unusual anxiety. "But we need to make sure nothing connects us directly to—" The rest of the conversation was cut off by the sound of the elevator arriving on the floor. Emily quickly retreated into the room, her mind processing the information she had just overheard. Nathan's words during the party were starting to make more sense. On the lower floor, Daniel Harris was also awake, working on his laptop in the estate's library. As an investigative journalist, something in his gut told him there was more to this wedding than just the union of two prominent families. His years of experience had taught him to recognize the subtle signs of a larger story unfolding behind the scenes. On his computer screen, several windows were open: company records, old news articles about William's business dealings, and a newly arrived email from an anonymous source promising crucial information about the true intentions behind the wedding. Sophia, who had decided to stay at the estate at Emily's request, was in her room reviewing the photos she had discreetly taken during the party. One in particular caught her attention, the exact moment one of the businessmen present handed something to William, partially obscured by a floral arrangement. Zooming in on the image, she could make out what appeared to be a flash drive. The clock struck 3 in the morning when Emily, too restless to sleep, decided to take a walk through the estate's corridors. The ancient walls seemed to whisper, stories every shadow cast by the moonlight, holding potential secrets. In the grand hall, now silent and empty, the floral arrangements were beginning to wilt, as if they too felt the weight of the day's events. It was then that she noticed something strange. The door to the estate's main office, which should have been locked, was slightly ajar. A faint light from within suggested that someone was working at that hour. Approaching cautiously, Emily heard the sound of drawers being opened and closed, papers being shuffled. Through the crack in the door, she could see Nathan, focused on his search for something specific. His movements were methodical, precise, as if he knew exactly what he was looking for. On the antique table, various documents were scattered, some bearing the official seal of Carter Hotels. A noise in the hallway made Nathan abruptly stop his search. Emily quickly hid behind one of the ornate columns in the hall, her heart racing. Footsteps approached, and she recognized Daniel Harris's voice speaking softly on the phone. "Yes, I received the documents," the journalist was saying. "If this is true, we're dealing with something much bigger than we imagined. It's not just about the hotels or the wedding. There are connections with companies abroad, suspicious transfers, and apparently Emily is a key piece in this puzzle without even knowing it." The journalist's words made Emily freeze. What role could she be? Playing in something she didn't even understand. The pendant around her neck felt heavier, as if it held answers she wasn't yet ready to uncover. Returning silently to the bridal suite, Emily found William finally returning from his late-night meeting. His expression was tense, worried, a stark contrast to the charismatic figure who charmed everyone during the day. "Still awake, my love?" he asked, trying to keep his voice casual. "You should be resting. Tomorrow will be a long day." Emily forced a smile, aware that every unspoken word between them carried the weight of increasingly evident secrets. "I was just admiring the view of the estate at night," she replied, watching William carefully stash his briefcase in a hidden safe behind a painting. The rest of the early morning passed in a tense silence. William eventually fell asleep, but Emily remained awake, her mind replaying every detail of the events from the past 24 hours. Nathan's note burned in her conscience, as did the words she had heard Daniel Harris utter. In the library, the journalist continued his tireless work, now accompanied by a cup of strong coffee. His years of experience told him he was close to something big, a story that could shake the foundations of the American business world. Sophia, in her room, finished sending some of the most intriguing photos to a friend who specialized in image analysis. Her intuition told her that those images might be more valuable than mere memories of a wedding celebration. And somewhere on the estate, Nathan Carter was organizing his findings, preparing for the events that would surely unfold at sunrise. The next day promised to bring long-hidden truths to light, and no one present at the Napa Valley estate would emerge unscathed from the revelations to come. The first rays of sunlight began to color the sky when Emily woke with a start. She had only slept for a few hours, her mind still processing the events of the early morning. The side of the bed where William should have been was empty and cold, indicating he had gotten up some time ago. On the antique dresser, a hastily written note informed her that he had needed to leave for an emergency meeting with investors. William's usually impeccable handwriting showed signs of haste or nervousness, something that didn't escape Emily's watchful eyes. Checking her phone, she found several messages from Sophia, urgently asking her to meet at the estate's library. The tone of the messages was cryptic, but it made the importance of the matter clear. Quickly dressing in a silk tunic her mother had embroidered, Emily headed to the agreed location. The library at Napa Valley Estate was a silent testament to American history. With its jacaranda shelves filled with rare volumes and historical documents, Sophia was already waiting for her, accompanied by Daniel Harris. The journalist's presence made Emily hesitate for a moment, but the serious expression on her friend's face convinced her to enter. "We need to show you something," said Sophia, her face revealing a mix of concern and determination. "The photos I took yesterday during the party, There's something you need to see. On her laptop, Sophia opened a series of enlarged images. The photographs, seemingly innocent at first glance, revealed disturbing details upon closer inspection. In one of them, it was clear to see the moment when one of the guests, an Arab businessman, discreetly handed an envelope to William. "That's not all," interjected Daniel, his voice maintaining a professional tone. "I've received information from reliable sources about a series of financial transactions involving Carter hotels and companies in the Middle East. The timing of these transactions coincides exactly with..." A sudden noise in the hallway interrupted the conversation. Hurried footsteps approached the library. Sophia quickly closed the laptop, while Daniel tucked some documents into his briefcase. The door opened, revealing Nathan Carter. "Sorry for the intrusion," he said, closing the door behind him, "but we need to act quickly. William is planning something for this morning, and I fear Emily is being used as the centerpiece in a much larger scheme." Emily felt the pendant around her neck grow heavier. The Arabic words engraved on it seemed to burn against her skin, as if confirming the suspicions growing in her mind. "What kind of scheme?" she asked, her voice steadier than she expected. Nathan took a deep breath before answering. "Carter hotels aren't just hotels. Over the years, William has turned the chain into a complex operation of, let's say, resource laundering. Marrying you, Emily, wasn't just about love. Your Arab heritage, your family connections. It's all part of a bigger plan to expand operations into the Middle East." Nathan's words fell like stones in the silence of the library. Sophia instinctively reached for Emily's hand, offering silent support. Daniel Harris discreetly took notes, his years of journalistic experience telling him he was onto a groundbreaking story. "There's more," Nathan continued, pulling a folder from his briefcase. "I found these documents in the office late last night. Contracts, transfers, meeting records. Everything points to an operation that's about to be completed, and the wedding was just the perfect facade to legitimize the transactions." Emily stood up, walking toward one of the library windows. The morning sun illuminated the gardens of the estate, where staff had already begun dismantling the party decorations. The reality she had known until now seemed to crumble before her eyes. The sound of her phone broke the moment of reflection. It was a message from William. "I'll be back in an hour. We have a special surprise planned for our first breakfast as a couple." "He's trying to buy time," said Nathan, after Emily shared the content of the message. "The main transfers must be finalized now. Once completed, it will be impossible to trace the source of the funds." Sophia reopened her laptop, showing a few more photos from the party. In a sequence of images, William could be seen in seemingly casual conversations with different guests, but a closer look revealed suspicious patterns of behavior and discreet exchanges of documents. "What can we do?" asked Emily, her voice carrying a determination that surprised everyone in the room. Daniel Harris closed his notebook. "I have contacts who can help expose all of this, but we need to proceed carefully. William has powerful connections, and once he realizes we've uncovered his plans..." The sound of a helicopter approaching the estate interrupted the conversation. Through the window, they could see the aircraft landing in the field adjacent to the property. 3 men in dark suits stepped out carrying executive briefcases. "Those are the investors from Dubai," murmured Nathan, his face tensing. "If they're here in person, it means the final operation is underway." Isabella touched the pendant once more, her grandmother's words echoing in her mind. "Not everything that glitters is gold." Now those words carried a weight far greater than she had ever imagined. "We need concrete evidence," said Sophia, her hands already working quickly on the laptop. "Something that can't be denied or covered up." Daniel Harris checked his watch. "We have less than an hour before William returns. If we're going to do something, it has to be now." Nathan approached Isabella, his expression serious but gentle. "The decision is yours. You can still pretend you know nothing, go through with the wedding, live the life he planned, or we can try to stop more people from being harmed by these schemes." The morning sun now fully illuminated the library, casting shadows across the ancient books that had witnessed so many secrets over the years. Isabella looked at the ring on her finger, the pendant around her neck, and then at the people gathered there, each waiting for her decision. The aroma of breakfast already filled the halls of Napa Valley Estate when Isabella made her choice. With a calmness that surprised everyone in the library, she removed the engagement ring and placed it on the antique oak table. "I need to protect my family and its traditions," she declared, her voice steady despite the emotional storm raging within her. "I can't allow our name to be used in this way." Daniel Harris quickly began organizing the documents Nathan had found, while Sophia transferred the incriminating photos to a secure device. The sound of the helicopter could still be heard in the distance, reminding them of the urgency of the situation. "We have to act smart," Nathan warned, checking his phone. "I just received a message from an old contact at the central bank. The international transfer started 20 minutes ago. Once the money reaches the accounts in Dubai..." The sound of footsteps in the hallway interrupted the conversation. Layla, Isabella's mother, entered the library, her worried expression turning to surprise as she saw the group gathered. Her sharp eyes immediately noticed the absence of the ring on her daughter's finger. "Habibi, what's going on?" she asked in Arabic, closing the door softly behind her. "The men who arrived by helicopter. Something's wrong, isn't it?" Isabella stepped closer to her mother, taking her hands in hers. In Arabic, she began to explain the situation, the words flowing like a river of long-held truths. Layla listened, in silence, her dark eyes filling with understanding and determination. "Your father," she finally said, switching back to English. "He always felt something was off. William's business dealings never seemed entirely transparent to him." Sophia, who was still monitoring activities on her laptop, let out a surprised exclamation. "I just got a response from my contact who analyzes images. He found something in the party photos that we need to see immediately." The enlarged images revealed details that had gone unnoticed during the event. In a series of photographs, a pattern of non-verbal communication between William and certain guests could be identified. Even more significant, one of the images clearly showed a partially visible document during a discreet exchange. On it, the logo of a bank in Dubai and numbers that matched the data Raphael had found. "This could be the proof we need," said Daniel, his journalistic instincts sharpened after years of investigating similar cases. "If we can connect these transfers to the documents Raphael uncovered..." Emily's phone buzzed. Another message from William. "I'm heading back to the estate. I have exciting news to share about our honeymoon." "He's trying to keep up appearances," observed Nathan, his experience in the family business allowing him to read between the lines. The honeymoon would likely be used to finalize international transactions away from prying eyes. Layla, who had remained silent for a few moments, suddenly remembered something. "The locket," she said, looking at the jewel around her daughter's. "Nak, you said you received it mysteriously this morning," Emily confirmed, removing the antique piece and handing it to her mother. Layla examined the object carefully, her experienced fingers in the antique trade recognizing details the others had missed. "This locket," she explained, "belonged to your great-grandmother. It was sold many years ago during difficult times in Syria. But the inscription, it's been altered. Someone engraved an additional message on the inside." Carefully, Layla manipulated a hidden mechanism in the locket, revealing a secret compartment. Inside, a microchip glinted under the morning light streaming through the library windows. "Someone wanted you to find this," said Daniel, his tone revealing the importance of the discovery. "Someone who knew enough about her family to choose this specific object." Sophia quickly connected the microchip to her laptop, her nimble fingers working to access its contents. The screen began to display a series of documents, contracts, and transfer records that seemed to form a complete map of William's operations. "This changes everything," declared Nathan, examining the files over Sophia's shoulder. "With this information, we can not only stop the current transfers but also trace all previous operations." The sound of cars arriving at the estate alerted the group. Through the library windows, they could see William stepping out of his Mercedes, accompanied by two of the men who had arrived by helicopter. His confident smile indicated he had no idea what he was about to face. "We need to act now," said Emily, her voice carrying the strength of generations of Arab women who had faced challenges before her. "But we have to protect my family. If something goes wrong..." "Nothing will go wrong," assured Layla. her gaze meeting her daughter's with an intensity that conveyed decades of wisdom. "Your grandmother always said that the truth, like the sun, cannot be hidden forever." Daniel Harris was already making calls, activating a network of contacts built over years of investigative journalism. Sophia continued documenting and organizing the evidence found on the microchip, while Nathan coordinated with his contacts in the financial system to track and potentially halt the ongoing transfers. The library clock struck 9 in the morning when the first footsteps of William could be heard ascending the stairs toward the bridal suite, where he expected to find Emily. What he didn't know was that each step brought him closer to a confrontation that would forever change the fate of everyone involved. In the library, Emily took a deep breath, touching one last time the spot where the locket had rested. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. A woman's true strength lies not in the power she wields over others, but in the courage to remain true to her principles. The morning sun now fully illuminated the library, as if nature itself wanted to bring to light all the secrets that had remained in the shadows for so long. The moment of truth had arrived, and there was no turning back. The sound of William's footsteps echoed through the corridors of Napa Valley Estate, growing closer to the library. Emily stood by the window, her upright posture reflecting a dignity inherited from generations of strong women in her family. The group had quickly organized the documents and evidence, preparing for the imminent confrontation. "He's not alone," whispered Sophia, who was discreetly observing through a crack in the door. The two businessmen from Dubai accompanied him, their serious expressions contrasting with William's confident smile. The library door opened, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. William's smile faltered slightly as he noticed the presence of so many people in the room, especially his brother Nathan. His eyes quickly found the engagement ring on the table, and understanding began to dawn on his face. "Darling, what's going on here?" he asked, keeping his tone controlled despite the evident tension in his shoulders. "I was looking for you in the suite." "I think you know exactly what's happening, William," replied Emily, her voice calm but firm. "The locket I received this morning brought more than just a message in Arabic." The businessmen from Dubai exchanged worried glances, their hands instinctively reaching for their phones. Nathan stepped forward, strategically positioning himself between them and the door. "The transfers have already started, haven't they?" Emily continued, turning Sophia's laptop so everyone could see the screen. "But you didn't account for this little detail." The screen displayed the documents found on the locket's microchip, detailing the entire structure of the financial operations William had built over the years. His face visibly paled. "You don't understand," he said, trying to regain control of the situation. "These matters are more complex than they seem. I was building a future for us, expanding the company's horizons." "Expanding horizons?" interrupted Layla, her voice heavy with disappointment. "Using our family, our traditions, our reputation as a front for your illegal operations." Daniel Harris remained silent, observing and documenting every moment, every reaction. His years of journalistic experience told him he was witnessing something extraordinary. One of the businessmen from Dubai stepped forward, speaking in English with a strong Arabic accent. "Mr. Carter, perhaps we should continue this discussion in a more private setting." "There's nothing left to discuss in private," declared Nathan, pulling an envelope from his briefcase. "The authorities have already been notified about the suspicious transfers. At this moment, all accounts related to the operations are being monitored." William staggered slightly, leaning against one of the antique shelves. His carefully constructed world was beginning to crumble before his eyes. "I did all of this for us," he insisted, turning to Emily. "Every decision, every move was made with the thought of building something grand. Don't you see? With these international connections, we could have had an empire." "An empire built on lies?" replied Emily, unconsciously touching the spot where the medallion once rested. "You didn't just betray my trust, William. You tried to use everything my family stands for, everything we've built over generations for your schemes." Sophia, who was still monitoring her laptop, let out a surprised exclamation. "The transfers, they're being reversed. Someone with high-level access is intervening in the system." The businessmen from Dubai immediately began making urgent calls, their voices tense, echoing in Arabic and English throughout the library. William seemed to have aged years in a matter of minutes, his always impeccable posture now showing clear signs of defeat. "How?" he asked, looking directly at Nathan. "How did you get all this information? You weren't the only one to inherit." "The family's business acumen, brother," replied Nathan. "While you were building your house of cards, I was gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment to act. The wedding was just the confirmation that you had gone too far." Layla stepped closer to her daughter, placing a protective arm around her. "Our family has survived wars, crossed oceans, and built a new life in this country through honest work and dedication. We wouldn't allow that to be tainted." The sound of more cars arriving at the estate caught everyone's attention. Through the windows, they could see several official vehicles parking in the courtyard. Daniel Harris discreetly put away his notebook, knowing that his role as an observer was about to transform into something much larger. "It's over, William," said Emily, her voice blending firmness with a hint of sadness. "The fairy tale you built had rotten foundations from the start." The businessmen from Dubai, sensing the gravity of the situation, tried to head for the door, but Nathan and Sophia strategically blocked the exit. The sound of footsteps climbing the estate's stairs grew closer. William, in a final moment of desperation, tried to approach Emily, but Layla stepped between them, her dark eyes gleaming with an intensity that made him retreat. "You never truly understood what family means, William," she said in Arabic, each word heavy with meaning. "It's not about empires or power. It's about honor, truth, and loyalty." The library door opened once more, revealing federal police officers and representatives from the central bank. The moment that would forever change the fate of everyone present had arrived, bringing with it the weight of decisions made and inevitable consequences. Emily watched the scene with a mix of emotions: sadness for what could have been, relief for having uncovered the truth in time, and a renewed strength that came from the certainty of having made the right choice. The morning sun continued to bathe the library through the historic stained glass windows, as if the light itself wanted to witness this moment of truth and justice. The hours that followed the confrontation in the library transformed the Napa Valley estate into a hub of intense investigations. The historic property, which just hours earlier had been the stage for a wedding celebration, now witnessed the meticulous dismantling of an elaborate international financial operations network. Emily watched the movement of investigators through the windows of the main office, where she was giving her formal statement. Her voice remained steady as she recounted the events that had led her to this moment, from the beginning of her relationship with William to the discoveries of the past few hours. "Miss Thompson," said the lead investigator on the case, "you have shown extraordinary courage in bringing this information to light. I understand it couldn't have been an easy decision. My family built its reputation through generations of honest work," replied Emily, her fingers unconsciously reaching for the pendant that was no longer around her neck. "I couldn't allow it to be used as a front for illicit activities." Downstairs, Daniel Harris was coordinating with his editorial team to cover the unfolding events. What had started as a story about a luxurious wedding had turned into one of the biggest investigative pieces of his career. His phone kept buzzing with messages from editors eager for details. Sophia stayed by her friend's side, offering silent support as she organized the digital evidence that had helped expose the scheme. Her seemingly innocent photos from the party now served as key pieces for the investigation, documenting encounters and exchanges that had gone unnoticed by the guests. "Preliminary analysis of the documents we found is conclusive," one of the investigators announced, entering the room with a folder of reports. "The scheme involves a complex network of hotels and shell companies using international investments for irregular financial operations." Nathan, who had been closely following the entire process, showed no satisfaction in his brother's downfall, only a deep weariness that revealed the weight of years spent harboring suspicions and gathering evidence. His phone rang. It was the Carter Hotel's administrative board calling for an emergency meeting. Layla had settled in the library, transforming the historic space into a support hub for everyone involved. With the dignity characteristic of her culture, she served Arabic coffee in small decorated cups, her traditional gesture of hospitality bringing a moment of humanity amidst the chaos. "Habibi," she called her daughter during a quieter moment, "your grandmother always said that Allah places in our path the challenges we can bear. You honored our family today." The businessmen from Dubai, after giving their statements, remained under the supervision of the authorities. Their once arrogant expressions had been replaced by poorly concealed nervousness, especially after the arrival of Interpol representatives who showed particular interest in their international activities. By late afternoon, a new commotion caught everyone's attention. Omar, Emily's father, arrived at the estate after being informed of the events. His face showed concern, but also an unmistakable pride as he watched his daughter carry herself with such strength and dignity. "Binti," he said, using the affectionate Arabic term for "my daughter" as he embraced her, "you did what was right. Our family always knew you carried within you the strength of our ancestors." The investigations continued methodically. Every document found on the locket's microchip opened new lines of inquiry. Authorities discovered that the hotel chain was just the visible tip of a much larger scheme involving prominent figures from the business and political worlds. Daniel Harris, observing the activity, took notes in his notebook. As an investigative journalist, he knew stories like this were rare, moments when the truth, no matter how painful, managed to prevail over carefully constructed appearances. "Miss Thompson," he called respectfully, approaching Emily, "when you're ready, I'd like to tell your story. Not just the facts of this investigation, but the courage of a woman who chose truth over a false fairy tale." Emily contemplated the offer for a moment, watching the sun begin to set through the windows of the estate. The lengthening shadows seemed to symbolize the end of one era and the beginning of another, more truthful one. "Our story," she gently corrected, looking at Sophia, Nathan, and her parents, "because none of us got here alone." In the garden, the last remnants of the wedding decorations were being removed. The flowers, still fresh, were carefully collected on Layla's orders to be donated to a local hospital, a small gesture of turning something that represented an illusion into a source of true joy for others. Night began to fall over the Napa Valley estate, but unlike the night before, there were no heavy secrets lingering in its historic halls. The century-old walls, which had witnessed so many stories over the years, now held one more, not a fairy tale, but a real story of courage, truth, and redemption. A week after the events at the Napa Valley estate, life began to find a new rhythm. The small antique shop owned by the Thompsons in downtown Chicago had become a quiet refuge for Emily, who found comfort among the historical objects that had always been a part of her life. The doorbell chimed softly, announcing Sophia's arrival. She carried with her the latest edition of the newspaper, where Daniel Harris had published the first part of his investigative series on the case. The headline was subtle, yet striking: "Hotel Empire Concealed International Scheme of Irregular Financial Operations." "He did an exceptional job," commented Sophia, flipping through the pages that detailed the investigation. "He kept the focus on the financial operations without turning his personal story into a spectacle." Emily nodded, appreciating the sensitivity with which the journalist had handled the narrative. Her own story was mentioned respectfully, highlighting her courage in exposing the scheme without resorting to unnecessary sensationalism. The shop phone rang. It was Nathan, calling to update Emily on the corporate developments. The board of directors at Carter Hotels had undergone a complete overhaul, with new members committed to transparency and the ethical restructuring of the business. "You should consider the board's proposal," said Nathan, his voice conveying sincerity. "Your experience in management and your commitment to ethics would be invaluable during this transitional period." The proposal for Emily to join the new board had arrived the day before, causing surprise and sparking lengthy family discussions. Her father, Omar, initially hesitant, eventually recognized the opportunity to transform something that had begun, with pain into a force for positive change. "I'm still reflecting on it," replied Emily, her eyes resting on an old Persian music box that adorned the shop's shelf. "There's a lot to consider." Layla, who was organizing a new shipment of antiques, shared her wisdom, Sometimes, Habibi, destiny presents us with unexpected paths to fulfill our purpose. The universe's synchronicity seemed to manifest even in the smallest details. That morning, an elderly customer had brought an ancient Arabic medallion to the shop, strikingly similar to the one that had exposed the entire scheme. The piece, now, rested in the main display case, its soft glow a reminder that truth, like gold, always finds a way to shine. Sophia, who had taken on a significant role in digitally documenting the case, shared updates on the ongoing investigations. Her photographs and technical analyses were helping authorities uncover even deeper connections in the international scheme. Investigators have discovered ramifications no one could have imagined, she explained, showing new evidence on her laptop. Each document from the microchip opens doors to other suspicious operations. The shop's bell rang again, this time announcing the arrival of Daniel Harris. The journalist, who had become a close friend of the family, brought news about the international impact of the story. Media outlets in the Middle East are particularly interested in the coverage, he informed. Your courage in exposing the scheme is inspiring others to report similar operations. As they talked, Omar worked at his special restoration desk, his skilled hands restoring beauty to an ancient Venetian mirror. The object, which had arrived, broken at the shop, was beginning to regain its original splendor under his patient care, an apt metaphor for the healing and restoration process they were all experiencing. Every piece has its story, Omar philosophized, delicately adjusting one of the mirror's frames, and sometimes it needs to break to be rebuilt stronger. The late afternoon brought a special visit, some of the former employees of Carter Hotels, who had decided to seek out Emily. They brought not only gratitude, but also valuable information about other questionable practices that needed to be investigated. You gave us back our dignity, said one of the oldest housekeepers, tears in her eyes. Now we can work without fear, knowing we are part of something honest. Emily listened to their accounts attentively, taking notes that would later be shared with the authorities. Each new testimony confirmed that her decision to expose the truth, though painful, had been crucial in protecting far more people than she had initially imagined. In the evening, after closing the shop, the Thompson family gathered for their traditional meal. The aroma of spices filled the air as Layla prepared dishes that had nourished not only the body, but also the soul of her family for generations. Allah has given us a new chance, she said, serving the cardamom coffee that always concluded their meals. Not to forget the past, but to build a better future from it. Sophia, who had stayed for dinner, watched the family interaction with admiration. The strength of those bonds, which had weathered the recent storm, seemed even more evident now. You are more than a family, she commented. You are a testament to how integrity and tradition can survive in a modern world. As the evening progressed, Emily reflected on all the changes that a single week had brought. The fairy tale she had imagined had transformed into something different, no less special, but infinitely more real. Her story was no longer about a dream wedding, but about the courage to stand up for what is right, even when the price seems too high. The soft sound of the Persian music box echoed through the shop, its ancient melody carrying the wisdom of generations. In the display window, the newly arrived locket shimmered under the nightlight, a silent reminder that true treasures are not made of gold alone, but of truth, courage, and a love for justice. 3 months after the events at Napa Valley Estate, the main meeting room of Carter Hotels had a completely different atmosphere. The old photographs of William had been replaced by a new corporate vision, focused on transparency and social responsibility. Emily, now a full member of the board of directors, was leading her first presentation on the changes implemented across the hotel chain. Our mission is not just to restore the company's credibility, she explained to the shareholders present, but to transform it into an example of how business can be conducted with ethics and respect for cultural traditions. Nathan, who had temporarily assumed the presidency during the transition period, watched with satisfaction as his potential sister-in-law had become a respected leader. Under her guidance, the hotel chain was developing an innovative cultural exchange program, authentically blending Middle Eastern traditions with American hospitality. In the small antique shop of the Thompsons, Layla was organizing a special exhibition of Arab artifacts, turning the family's recent history into an opportunity for cultural education. The event had attracted significant interest, especially after Daniel Harris's investigative reporting series won a prestigious journalism award. "Every piece here tells a story of resilience and preservation," she explained to the visitors, her eyes shining as she showed the locket that had revealed the entire scheme. The jewel, now a permanent part of the exhibition, symbolized how the truth, even when hidden, always finds its way to the light. Sophia, who had expanded her work in investigative photography, was developing a documentary project about women who faced ethical dilemmas in their professional lives. Her first interviewee had been Emily, whose story inspired others to stand firm in their principles. "The images I captured at that wedding changed my perspective on the power of photography," Sophia reflected as she organized her next exhibition. "Every moment frozen in time can hold truths that need to be revealed." The impact of the revelations about the financial scheme continued to reverberate in the international market. New verification and transparency procedures were being implemented across various hotel networks, creating a domino effect of positive changes in the industry. Omar, always dedicated to his art of restoration, had begun teaching workshops on the preservation of antiques. His technical knowledge, combined with stories of family integrity, attracted students interested not only in restoring objects, but also in preserving values. "Every restoration is an opportunity to honor the past, while building the future," he taught, his skilled hands demonstrating centuries-old preservation techniques. On a particularly busy afternoon at the shop, Emily received an unexpected visit. An elderly lady, elegantly dressed, introduced herself as the former owner of the medallion that had changed everything. "I knew this piece would find its way to you," the lady revealed, her gentle eyes carrying ancient wisdom. "Some jewels carry more than just material value. They carry destinies." The conversation that followed revealed surprising connections between their families, tracing back generations to Lebanon. The lady, who preferred to remain anonymous, had discreetly followed the Thompsons' journey for years, waiting for the right moment to intervene. Daniel Harris, who documented every new development in the story, found in this revelation the missing element for his next book. The narrative wasn't just about an uncovered financial scheme, but about how ancient traditions and values could guide people through modern challenges. The transformation of Carter hotels was proving to be a case study in ethical business recovery. Emily had implemented a compliance program that had become a benchmark in the industry, combining international practices with traditional values of integrity. "True luxury isn't in the facilities or services," she explained in an interview with a specialized magazine, "but in the trust we build with our clients and collaborators." Nathan, observing the steady growth in numbers under the new management, finally felt that the family business was on the right path. International connections, once used for suspicious operations, now served to establish legitimate cultural partnerships. The Napa Valley estate, after a careful restoration, had transformed into a cultural center, celebrating the fusion of American and Arab traditions. The place where a wedding had once revealed painful truths now served as a space to promote understanding and respect between different cultures. Layla, during one of her nightly reflections with her daughter, expressed a wisdom that summarized the entire journey. "Allah shows us the way through trials, Habibi. What seems like a loss in the moment may be the seed of something much greater." And indeed it was. The story of the Thompsons and the Carters had become a symbol of how truth, when defended with courage and dignity, could not only prevent injustices, but also create opportunities for transformation and growth. That evening, as she closed the shop, Emily observed the locket in the main display window. Its soft glow seemed more intense under the twilight light, as if reflecting not only the past it had revealed, but also the future it had helped build. A year had passed since the events that transformed Emily's life and the lives of everyone around her. The small antique shop of the Thompsons, now expanded and renovated, celebrated its 30th anniversary. The space had become more than a commercial establishment. It was a cultural meeting point where stories and traditions intertwined with the present. The celebration brought together people who had become fundamental to the new phase of Emily's life. Sophia, whose photographic work had gained international recognition, documented the event with her characteristic sensitivity. Daniel Harris, accompanied by his team, prepared a special report on the lasting impact the Thompson story had had on the American business scene. "It's incredible how a decision based on principles can generate so many positive transformations," commented Daniel, observing the activity in the shop. His book on the case had become a bestseller, inspiring debates on business ethics in universities and corporations. Nathan, who now managed Carter Hotels in partnership with Emily, had implemented a management model that combined commercial success with social responsibility. The chain had not only recovered from the scandal, but had become an example of how tradition and modernity could coexist harmoniously. "Our hotels don't just sell accommodation," he explained to a group of international investors. "We offer an experience that honors different cultures and values." Layla and Omar watched with pride as their small family shop had transformed into a symbol of resilience and renewal. The shelves, still filled with carefully selected antiques, now also told stories of transformation and hope. "Every piece here," Layla would tell visitors, "is a testament to how the past can illuminate our path to the future." The medallion that had revealed the entire scheme held a place of honor in the shop's permanent exhibition. Beside it, a discreet plaque narrated not only its history, but also how a seemingly simple object could become an instrument of change. The elderly woman who had delivered the medallion became a frequent presence in the shop, sharing ancient stories and wisdom with visitors. Her identity, though still kept private from the public, had been revealed to Emily. She was a former guardian of Arab traditions, part of a network of women who had worked silently for generations to preserve values and protect truths. Sophia had documented the entire transformation over the year, creating a photographic archive that captured not only events but also emotions and subtle changes. Her images told a story of rebirth, both personal and collective. "Every photograph," she explained in her latest exhibition, "is a fragment of truth frozen in time, waiting to be discovered and understood." The Napa Valley estate, now a vibrant cultural center, was preparing to host an international conference on business ethics and cultural preservation. The place that had witnessed the collapse of an empire built on lies now served as a stage for discussions on integrity and transparency in business. Emily, in her new leadership role, had become a respected voice in the corporate world. Her personal story, combined with her innovative vision of management, inspired other women to remain true to their principles even in the face of significant challenges. "True success," she often shared in her talks, "is not measured solely by financial results but by the positive impact we generate in people's lives." The shop's anniversary exhibition included a special section dedicated to the Thompson family's journey. Old photographs mingled with recent records, telling a story of immigration, perseverance, and moral triumph. The aroma of Arabic coffee and cardamom filled the air as Layla served guests with the same hospitality that had marked 3 decades of history. Among those present at the celebration were also former employees of Carter Hotels who had helped expose the scheme. Their lives had taken new directions, many of them inspired by Emily's courage in confronting the situation. At night, as the celebration came to an end, Emily found a moment of quiet in her father's old restoration room. The space, with its meticulously organized tools and ongoing projects, always brought her a sense of continuity and purpose. "How you know, Binti?" said Omar, joining her. "Sometimes we need to break something precious to discover its true value." Layla, bringing a final round of coffee, completed the thought. "And sometimes, Habibi, the happy ending isn't the one we initially dreamed of, but the one Allah destined for us." Emily smiled, deeply understanding the wisdom in her parents' words. Her fairy tale hadn't ended in a traditional wedding, but in something far more meaningful: the discovery of her own strength, the preservation of family values, and the creation of a legacy of integrity that would continue to inspire future generations. The medallion in the display case glowed softly under the nightlights, its reflection a reminder that some stories don't need magic to be extraordinary. They just need the courage to stand by the truth and the wisdom to turn challenges into opportunities for growth. As the city slept outside, the Thompsons' small antique shop remained a beacon of hope and tradition, proving that the real treasures aren't the ones we keep in vaults, but the values and principles we carry in our hearts. End of story, dear listeners. We hope Emily's journey has touched your hearts and inspired reflections on courage, integrity, and the true meaning of happiness. To continue exploring equally captivating and transformative stories, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Share your thoughts on this narrative in the comments and let us know which city you're tuning in from. With every new like and subscription, we strengthen this community that believes in the power of true stories. See you in the next episode.